Hey, and welcome to Biking with Campbell. I recently had the pleasure of riding the Ducati Desert X. Cheers. I'm just here at Cycle Spot over the shore, and so we've got a little bit of a ride on this. We'll go out to Old North Road, the windies there, and see how we go. The Ducati Desert X is a thing of beauty. Styled after the Cagiva elephant, it has that modern retro touch. Perhaps there might be a touch too much white for some, but there's plenty of real estate to add your own decal kit if you want. Before I get right into it, you're probably interested in some of the basic stats. The engine capacity is 937 cc's, max power is 110 horsepower at 9,250 rpm, max torque is 68 foot-pounds or 92 newton meters at 6,500 rpm. Forks are 46mm KYB and they're fully adjustable. They have 230mm of travel. The rear shock is also KYB and is also fully adjustable with remote preload adjustments. In it has 220mm of travel. Wheels are 21-inch front and an 18-inch rear. Seat height is a non-adjustable 873mm or 34.4 inches. It has a 21-litre tank, and it weighs in at a claimed 223 kilos wet, although some are stating that it's 230 kilos. My first impressions are of a typical adventure bike, so it feels very familiar and comfortable. For my ride, I opted for the sports mode, which the dealer helped me select. I wanted the most direct throttle response, and sport seemed like the logical choice. The throttle itself has a minor niggle, which I personally found irritating. It has almost a quarter turn of twist grip before the ride-by-wire reacts. This reminds me of a poorly adjusted cable throttle, but it might not bother you. Whether this is a deliberate design choice, poor build quality, or a quality control issue, I can't seem to find out. If you've got any idea, let me know below. Other than that, the throttle response seems good. As I hit the motorway, I notice a little buffeting.
It's a bit windy here, Trev!
But it's a very windy day, and different screens suit different riders. I'm 5'10", and it just didn't work well for me. Once I hit the twisties, I'm struck by two things. How quickly it changes directions, which reminds me of the original Multistrada, and how unstable it is. I'm really confused by the front end. The bike initiates turns well, and it seems eager to lean. Unfortunately, its quick, light feel comes with a trade-off, and that is that instability. I think about Simon Hargreaves' comments in his review, and about how the Desert X reminded him of the KTM 950 Adventure, which I've owned, and how Ryan at Fortnite went to great pains to point out the efforts Ducati went to lighten the front end, giving the Desert X a light front rim and light calipers. They're both correct, and I'm not really fussed by the results. It has that vagueness of the KTM, feeling like it could tuck at any moment, and the lightness makes it lively, and it hops and skips off bumps. I feel it could be easily sorted with some basic adjustments. I would raise the forks through the clamps, I'd back off the preload, and I'd increase the rebound. This would reduce the speed it kicks off road imperfections, and just put a bit more weight over the front end and make it feel more planted. With all that being said, on billiard table smooth corners, it's a delight and you can carve with more confidence. I'm left wondering if this particular bike has an issue with the front end, as it just didn't seem quite right to me. Most of the reviewers have commented on how the long swing arm has aided stability and how the Desert X is one of the better sporty ADVs on the market. The brakes are excellent and they transition from light to heavy braking really smoothly, and they have ample power. I'm just going to give these front brakes a good squeeze. Whoa! Don't know if you heard that, or was the front wheel locking? Feedback from the front end under brakes is a bit vague, but with those minor adjustments previously mentioned, the feedback under braking would probably be great. I pull over and I fiddle with the modes, but it's difficult to navigate without my reading glasses due to the small screen and some of the fonts being fairly tiny. I think back to the Aprilia Touareg and realise how confidence-inspiring its handling was, and how accessible and logical its menus are. I think I finally figured it out, only discovered it's still in the same mode a couple of minutes later. Oh, it's in sport. So it didn't go into touring mode, it's in sport mode still. So it's still exactly the same. So no idea what it's like in touring mode, but I don't have all day to try and figure out how to put this in the different modes. Just before I hit the gravel section, the throttle cuts out unexpectedly mid-corner. Fortunately, I'm riding with plenty in reserve, so it's annoying instead of dangerous. Whoa, f***ing stupid f***ing thing! So just so you know what happened back there on that corner, just as I was mid-corner, the throttle on its own just rolled off the power, which just upset the chassis. It's done that a couple of times, but not in the middle of a corner before. I decided to take a hint and I head back to Cycle Spot whilst the beautiful Ducati is still pristine. It's a shame to cut things short, but it seems the responsible thing to do. Ultimately, I think the Desert X just isn't my cup of tea. My favourite things about the Ducati Desert X are its excellent engine, the beautiful styling, and those tremendous brakes. And my gripes are that horrible throttle slop, the very scary front end on this particular bike that I rode, and the tiny screen and the challenging menus. So I hope you liked my Desert X review. It took me quite a long time to edit it, and in particular I did multiple rewrites. It was a particularly difficult one to do, just trying to find that balance between telling you about my honest, truthful experience, but telling you in a way that wasn't too much of a slag off. So yeah, it just seemed to me like there was something not quite right with the front end on that. I can't for a second believe that that is how they handle their standard. So it would be nice to know. I might go back and try writing it again at some point. Ultimately, I really didn't like it. If you want to see a more raw review of that, a bit of a blunt scalpel review, like that one that was a little bit mean on the Touareg, which I'm starting to think in comparison to other new bikes is fairly exceptional when you compare it to other new bikes. Anyway, that's enough from me. Remember to like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you all next time. Biking with Campbell.